Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happen every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Danielle. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WomensSportsWeeklyPod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Send us an email at WomensSportsWeeklyPod@gmail.com. And we may feature your email on our Listeners Experience Zone, also known as the Les.
We've got Run Club again this week. It will be on Thursday at the 99ers beginning at 6 o'clock p.m. You will run 3 miles. And if you run 3 miles with Run Club and go back to the 99ers and say the secret word for this week, you will receive 50% off your first draft. That secret word for this week is peach.
Yes.
Why is it peach, Danielle?
We were in Palisade this past weekend. Palisade is Colorado's wine country. It's also where our lovely friend Meg lives, which we're very sad about because she left us here in Denver, but now we can visit her in a wonderful place in Colorado.
And they're also known for their Palisade peaches.
Yes. I jumped right to the wine, but Palisade also has Palisade Peach. You probably heard of that if you are in Colorado. But we really just had a wonderful weekend visiting and spending time in Palisade, drinking some wine. We spent an entire day on the Colorado River floating around on Meg and her boyfriend Meryl's raft. And it was such a nice way to spend the long weekend.
I'm officially a river gal. We saw multiple bald eagles, and to do that over July 4th, I felt very American to see so many eagles on the river. And you know who else was a river gal?
Scout. Who would have known? Our dog Scout. She's become better on the water. She is a little scared of water in a sense of she doesn't like to go any deeper than where her feet can touch. Mm-hmm. And once she realizes it's too deep, she gets very nervous. We've been working on it and she's been getting a little better, but she just gets very scared.
And she can swim. She
Yes.
knows how to swim, but she just doesn't like it.
But we also got her a dog life vest because to be on the river, dogs and humans need to have life vests. And I must say, I gush over Scout all the time. That had to be the cutest thing I've ever seen.
She looked like a little construction worker because the vest was orange. And so she just looked like Scouty, the construction worker. But she loved being on the boat.
Yes, I was a little nervous because we've had her out on paddle boards before. And granted, paddle boards are a lot smaller and shakier. And she definitely gets a little nervous. But once she was secure on the raft, she realized that it was the best thing ever because she's out in the sun. She was with us. We were just having a really nice, relaxing time, and she was just soaking up the sun, loving life.
It was a really wonderful weekend it was definitely a step down from our previous weekend in the way of like not at 99, 100. Like it was so relaxing just to go to some nice wineries and then go raft down the river for a day. It was exactly what I needed. And obviously time with friends who we love is just also so important. So feel rejuvenated. I hope we sound better this week.
Yes, I would hope so as well. I also needed a nice weekend away because I had off from my full-time job this past week. And whenever I have off from my full-time job, I find house projects to do. And you were working and I was like, I'm not just going to sit around all week and do nothing. I mean, I could obviously find fun things to do, but I'm like, we have things to do. So one of our goals has been to redo our basement. And let me just tell you, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, looking up a lot of information online, and I took that knowledge and started working on that basement all by myself this past week.
There's demo happening.
Yep.
Lots of demo. There is insulation going up on the walls. There is cutting. There is insulation everywhere. You are really doing the most, and I'm very excited because if we have this finished basement, I think it'll make a big difference in our tiny home.
So if you need me for any house projects, don't call. But if you do want to help me, you can call and come on over. I'll reward you with some food and drink, I promise.
For sure. And if you know how to work on 125-year-old houses, we really need you.
We'll take it because Carolyn, like I said, you were working, so you can help. And Scout, I thought she would be helpful, and she's scared of everything. So she hid upstairs all week as I was in the basement.
And prices are high right now, so Danielle's going to do the work herself. I'm really impressed because we've said this before, but we're really not the handy lesbians, but you are. You are
you
now.
Say that.
You're the handy lesbian.
Give me some more credit than that.
Home Depot D.
But we'll see. And some insulation's up, but I have a long ways to go, so don't be too proud of me yet.
Yeah, there's no before and after pictures yet. I'll be happy if this happens within a year.
Yeah,
because seriously. There's a lot of work to be done down there.
Yes. But with that was the highlight of our weekend. Let's get into the highlight reel of what's been going on this week in the women's sports world.
Let's start with the U.S. women's national team versus Canada in soccer. The U.S. won this game 3-0 with goals from Sam Coffey, Claire Hutton, and Yasmin Ryan. Sam Coffey scored first off a set piece from a free kick from Rose Lavelle. And then the second goal was scored by Claire Hutton, also off a set piece corner kick from Rose Lavelle. So set pieces are where it's at for the U.S. women's national team. It may have been where we struggled in the past, but not anymore, especially when Rose Lavelle is kicking the ball. This was Claire Hutton's first international goal at just 19 years old and her 6th cap.
Wow, that's really amazing.
This starting lineup for the U.S. women's national team against Canada included 10 changes from the second game against Ireland. So Emma Hayes stays putting out different rosters, giving people a chance, giving people an opportunity. There was honestly, I know we haven't gotten to the third goal yet, but there was honestly only one chance where Canada looked dangerous to me in this match. And it was directly after Sam Coffey scored to put the U.S. up 1-0. And Canada's Jordan Huitema, who also plays for the Seattle Reign, had a really nice shot that U.S. goalie Claudia Dickey was able to save. And I was like, oh my gosh, Canada's going to score. It's going to be 1-1. And we're going to do like this classic U.S.-Canada face-off. It didn't happen. And then Claire Hutton scored the second goal. And then Yasmin Ryan comes in the second half and scores the third goal. And my question is the U.S. women's national team the shit?
Okay, don't get too ahead of ourselves.
I know, I'm getting so excited.
Yeah, and for a good reason, but we never want to get too ahead of ourselves. It's very nice that Emma Hayes is showing us different lineups and really just letting the players get the experience they need. Just last week, you were saying it's never friendly going into a game with US and Canada, and I'm sure Canada still feels that way, but right now we're feeling pretty good about that game and where the US stands right now.
They look dominant in that game. Canada right now I believe is ranked number 8 in the world in the FIFA rankings, but I was just like, holy cannoli, the US is just putting on a show here.
I looked at you at one point, I was like, wait a second, what is happening?
It was really impressive. The US has depth. They are clearly all bought into this system, which I think is really impressive that Emma Hayes has so many players coming into the system and they're all buying in and they're making good teams like Canada look like mediocre teams. They are totally dominant. I also think having Rose Lavelle back in the midfield makes such a difference. And then you have someone like Sam Coffey, who's not normally a goal scorer, jacking goals. And yeah, the U.S. looks really, really good. I might say that the U.S. women's national team is the shit. They're the shit right now.
All right. I'm not going to argue that.
All right. Let's get into some basketball news. Let's talk about the WNBA Commissioner's Cup.
Yes, really quickly wanted to highlight this. It was earlier in the week this past week, and we didn't get to talk about it last week. So Indiana Fever won their first ever Commissioner's Cup, beating the Lynx 74-59. Now,
proper beatdown.
A week ago, when you asked me, who do you think would win? I didn't even hesitate. I said the Minnesota Lynx. And I asked you, and you said depends on how rigged the game is.
It wasn't rigged, okay?
And that's what I was going to say. We can't even say it was rigged. The Lynx could not hit a shot. It was rough for them. Caitlin Clark was on the bench. Very interesting that the Fever was able to take over. Not to mention that the Lynx currently, at the time of recording, are the number 1 seed overall across the WNBA. And the Fever are 7 in the standings. So just overall was a surprising game. And while I was watching, I was like, again, what is happening here?
The Fever have some Commissioner's Cup magic because although in the overall standings are somewhere in the middle, they took this Commissioner's Cup and they were like, we're winning everything. And that's what they did.
Natasha Howard was named MVP in this win. She had a double-double in that game. And the Indiana Fever as a whole won $500,000 to be split amongst all the players on the roster. For the NBA, that might not sound like a lot of money because NBA players are making way more than that per individual. But for the WNBA players to get that added money into their salary for the year is huge. So that's a big win for the Fever.
Cash is cash.
Yes. Next game I wanted to highlight, my Seattle Storm, who, not to mention, beat the Atlanta Dream this past week as well.
That was so
on
close.
Thursday night. Such a close game. As a reminder, Carolyn and I have a bet going on in that series, and I was freaking out because I thought Atlanta was going to come back and win it in the last second, but just so everyone knows, it's 1-1 right now between those two teams.
And Skylar Diggins hit the game winner.
My girl.
Win-win-win for you.
Yes. But I did want to highlight the Seattle Storm versus New York Liberty game this past Sunday. The Storm beat the Liberty 79-70, which, again, this is a huge win. The Storm have been playing really well recently. I feel like the team is really finding their groove and gelling. They were 11-7 going into this game, and New York was 12-5. Not sure if you all remember, but New York Liberty started the season out undefeated for quite a while, and now they're evening out in terms of record and where they're at with other teams. And the Storm, I feel like, just has been climbing up, which I love to see.
The Liberty also had some injuries along the way. They've been dealing with some injuries. Yes. Leonie Fibich has been playing some international
ball. But she was here this game.
I know.
Both teams were on from the 3 in the first half and just across the board in the first half. The Liberty were actually up at halftime 44-41. Sabrina Ionescu, who did not play the first time these two teams played, she had 20 points in the first half. She was unconscious. 4 of those points came in the last 13 seconds of the first half on a 4-point play because she was fouled on a 3-point shot that she made and won. She was very fired up, which I was like, crap. We can't have that. And the announcers even said they talked to Sabrina before the game and were like, you know, what's going to be the difference between this game and the last time you played the Storm? And she was like, well, I didn't play. And she did show up in that first half. But right before halftime, Gabby Williams was able to come down the court after Sabrina made that 4-point play, and she hit a pull-up jumper at the buzzer to make it 44-41. Skylar Diggins also had a big first half, scoring 11 of her 13 points in that first half. But the third quarter of this game is really where the Seattle Storm shined through, and this is what secured them the win, in my opinion. And I think anyone who's watching can say that. They outscored the Liberty 22-6 in that third quarter, which if you come off the halftime break and cannot score like that, it's pretty rough to come back to.
New York Liberty all took a little bit of melatonin at halftime.
Yeah, they were a little sleepy. They were 2 for 18 shooting in the third quarter. That is rough. Another person to highlight in this game, 6'6" French forward and rookie Dominique Malanga, who you all might remember as the number 2 draft this past WNBA draft and the 3rd youngest player in WNBA history. She did not play at all in the first half. She comes in at the end of the third quarter and only played 10 minutes the entire game. And in those 10 minutes that she played, she had 11 points and 8 rebounds. Being only 19, it's going to take her some time to get used to the league and coming from a different country. But the way she played, I'm like, ooh, you could just see why she was selected in the number 2 spot. To me, it's the potential that's there. Like, she's not there playing big minutes, but they see what she can do down the line.
Knowing all the rookies now, would you have taken her in the number 2 spot?
I still want to, but what I always say is it depends on what that team needs.
You do say this a lot. You can't teach height.
Yeah.
I don't know. She's been struggling this rookie year, but we also have to remember she's 19 years old, came directly from France, and is now plopped in the United States and expected to play at a professional level in the hardest league to play in.
Right. Exactly. It's going to take her some time. But she also, on defense, played well and altered a few of Brianna Stewart's shots on the defensive end. This was a rough game, I will say, for Brianna Stewart. She finished with 8 points. This was the first time she hasn't scored double digits since the opening game of the 2024 season.
Wow.
So definitely not feeling great after that game, I'm sure. I got a little nervous, I will say, in the fourth quarter because everyone knows how a basketball game could go. The momentum can shift within seconds. And the Seattle Storm did get a little cold at the very end of the game. They scored their last basket with 3 whole minutes left to go in the game. And that's when Liberty went for a little bit of a run, but they couldn't close the gap enough, which was good.
Yeah.
For the Storm, Gabby Williams scored 16 points and Nneka Ogwumike scored 15 points. So those two were the leading scorers. Unfortunate injury for Isabel Harrison on the Liberty. So again, another injury this past game. That happened in the third quarter. Coach Sandy Brondello after the game said Harrison's going to need some imaging on that right knee. So hoping it's nothing too serious there. At the time of recording, the Liberty overall standings are in the number 3 spot in the league, and the Storm are right behind them, sitting at the number 4 spot. Both teams are looking good, and ahead of them are Lynx in number 1 spot and the Mercury in number 2.
Mercury!
So we still got some time in the season, and excited to see how things play out.
We're about to head into the All-Star break, so it's interesting to see who has momentum now and what happens after the break, who will continue to build upon that momentum and who may not. It's going to be a fight for those top playoff spots. It's really interesting. Let's pause for a little ad for ourselves. Please rate and subscribe to our podcast. We love to do this podcast. It's our favorite part of the week, and we want to continue to do it. We create, produce, and edit the podcast ourselves. So if you want to support us, please rate, subscribe, give us a positive review, and share with the people you love. It goes a tremendous way for a small podcast like us without producers or without a network backing. It really, really does go a long way if you rate and subscribe. Thank you to everyone who has rated the podcast. If you send us a screenshot of your 5-star rating, we will send you a Women's Sports Weekly sticker. All right, we mentioned the All-Star break coming up in a couple weeks. We do need to talk about the WNBA All-Star roster because it is set. So how does this roster work? How did it get put together? Fans accounted for 50% of the vote to determine the starters for the WNBA All-Star game. And then WNBA players voted for the other 25% and media voted for the other 25% to make it 50%. And this is for starters only. So that's how the starters were determined. The reserves, so the subs, were selected by the league's head coaches. The head coaches voted for 3 guards and 5 front court players and 4 players at either position, regardless of the conference, and they couldn't vote for their own players. So that's how we got our roster here. By the time we release, we'll have the team set, but the captains are Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier, so they will pick out their teams. But let's go through the starters. So obviously, Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier. Then you have Aaliyah Boston, Paige Beckers, Alicia Gray, Sabrina Ionescu, Nneka Ogwumike, Satu Sabally, Brianna Stewart, and Asia Wilson. Those are your starters for the All-Stars. And then on reserve, we have Sonia Citron, Skylar Diggins, Ryan Howard, Kiki Iriafen, Kelsey Mitchell, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, Alyssa Thomas, Courtney Williams, Gabby Williams, and Jackie Young.
Quite a few rookies in this mix, which is cool to see.
I'm so happy you pointed that out, Danielle, because for the first time since 2011, 3 rookies have made the team: Sonia Citron, Kiki Iriafen, and Paige Beckers. So let's talk about some good things. Amazing to see Caitlin Clark earned the role of captain by being the All-Star who received the most amount of fan votes. It was a record of 1,293,526 votes.
Shocking.
However, Nafisa Collier right behind her with over 1 million votes. So that is really amazing to see. Let's talk about what else is cool. Nneka Ogwumike for the Seattle Storm. She is in her 14th season and she earns her 10th All-Star selection. With this 10th selection, it ties her for the 3rd most in WNBA history with Tamika Catchings and Brittany Griner. Pretty cool group to be a part of. She is right behind Sue Bird with 13 at the top and Diana Taurasi with 11.
Good for her. Just recently in a post-game conference, Skylar Diggins was praising Nneka, just how great she is of a player. And she said that she's the most underrated MVP in the league's history. Yeah. And she really does fly under the radar. So really happy for her.
While doing the most for like the
yeah.
union and all the other things that she does behind the scenes. Other good things happening. Brianna Stewart of the Liberty and Asia Wilson on the Aces both earn All-Star honors for the 7th time. So they're on track with each other. Asia Wilson just beat out Stewie to be the fastest person to reach 5,000 points. And it was right above Stewie's record. Alicia Gray from the Atlanta Dream. I'm so excited. This is her 3rd time that she will be an All-Star and also her 3rd consecutive year. She ranks 5th in scoring. She was the Eastern Conference Player of the Month in May. She's posting career high rebounds, career high 19.5 points per game. She also made history last year at the All-Star game in 2024 when she became the first player to win both the 3-point contest and the skills challenge. I'm just always happy for Alicia Gray on the Atlanta Dream.
Go Cox.
Go Cox. Let's talk about some snubs. Alyssa Thomas did get voted as a reserve for the All-Star. And I do like that they have fan voting and player voting and media voting, and then they do let the coaches vote as well, because we do get to see every player, because if it was just fan voting, it would be all of the Indiana Fever. So very happy that we have this opportunity for coaches to put in their input as well. But Alyssa Thomas, who plays for the Phoenix Mercury, is another person like Nneka Ogwumike, who I just think is underrated. I do think she should be a starter. She just does everything so well, and I think when we talk about impact to a team, if there was a whole roster of WNBA players, Alyssa Thomas, to me, would be at the very top to pick. She just makes an impact on any team that she's on. Also, I am very upset because this is who I was voting for every single day. Brittany Sykes from the Washington Mystics did not make the All-Star team.
That's tough.
She's amazing. She plays for the Mystics. She is scoring close to 18 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 1 steal per game. She's just doing it all, and I really think she deserved that honor. She came guns blazing from Unrivaled. She had such a good season there, and I think she's doing so well on the Mystics, and I really just wish that she made the All-Star team. I think we all should have voted for her a little bit more. She should have made that through fan voting alone. To me, another miss was Dearica Hamby on the LA Sparks, who's averaging 17 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, close to 4 assists, just doing really, really well. And then also, Azurá Stevens for the LA Sparks is in top 10 in efficiency for the WNBA and is the only person in top 10 efficiency who's not on the All-Star team.
I think that's where it gets difficult with fans being such a high percentage of the vote. But to your point, like when it comes down to reserves, the coaches are voting on that. So that's, those are tough ones.
And I say all of this, but I'm like, who do you
take off? Because
right?
I'm looking at the list and I do think that same thing. So that is hard.
It is. So All-Star is coming up in a couple weeks here. We'll see what the teams are going to look like. It's going to be such a fun weekend. I'm really happy for these players who are going to be attending.
Yes, I really can't wait for All-Star weekend. It's going to be really fun.
Let's get into what we're looking forward to this week. Let's stay on the basketball train, D. What do you have?
I am actually looking forward to the WNBA. The Minnesota Lynx are playing the Chicago Sky this Saturday, July 12th at 1 p.m. Eastern on ABC and ESPN+.
Danielle, why are you excited for this game? Minnesota Lynx are at the top, tippity top, and Chicago Sky are at the very bottom.
Yes, that part's not great. But we are actually headed to Chicago to go see this game live. As you all know, we do not have a team in Denver, and we wanted to go to a game, and Chicago is a great city. We're just really excited to see the game in person. So that's why I am shouting that out. Maybe watch the game and look for us on TV.
Oh, yeah. Keep an eye out. I have a confession.
What?
This will be my first WNBA game.
Wait, really?
Yeah. This will be my first one that I go to in person.
You never went to a New York Liberty game growing up?
I don't think I did.
That's really sad.
Isn't this sad? Do you think people will stop listening to us because they're like, this girl's never even been to a WNBA
You've been to
game?
Unrivaled. I know it's not the same, but wow.
And we go to every Final Four. But yeah.
Wow.
I always watch the WNBA.
I know you do. I did not know this.
I know.
Well, this is going to be really fun.
Yeah, don't hold it against me, everyone. I'm really excited to go. I promise I'll be going to more in the future.
We'll talk about all the things when we get back next week about our experience there, and Carolyn can talk about her first WNBA experience.
Yeah, I'm going to get all the merch, and I'm going to get all the popcorn. I'm really just going to have to lean in hard. I'm going to get a picture with the little sky lion. What's the mascot's name? I forget. But I'll do all the things, all the cringy things as a first-time fan. Do you think they'll give me like a pin or something?
No.
Okay. That's what you get on your first flight.
Yeah. I just hope they pick me for one of the halftime contests and I'm on the court out there shooting some balls.
So this is really the difference between you and I. You walk in and you're like, do you think I'll get chosen for a halftime shot contest? And that never, ever crosses my mind. And I just love that you want to do that. And I don't know who we need to talk to. We could probably actually send an email to someone and be like, please put Danielle out there. Not that we have any pull, but maybe they would come and get you.
We can only hope.
Wow. Maybe I have some homework to do before we go.
What are you looking forward to besides that?
Wimbledon, baby. Tennis is here. Another Grand Slam. Wimbledon is played in London in the UK. The semifinals are this Thursday, July 10th, and the finals are on Saturday, July 12th. They will be played on ESPN. What I think is really interesting about Wimbledon is, one, they play on grass, but what's interesting here is the first 2 rounds of Wimbledon, only one athlete in the top 5 world rankings remained. So the top 5 was Aryna Sabalenka, Coco Gauff, Jess Pegula, Jasmine Paolini, and Zheng Qinwen. And the only person left after the first 2 rounds was Aryna Sabalenka.
Wow.
Yes. So Aryna Sabalenka is still in, Mira Andreeva is still in, and Iga Swiatek is still in. So we'll see what happens in this final.
Can't wait. That is it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch Women's Sports and share the podcast with your friends. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. And thanks for joining us.
Bye.